Good morning. These guys are probably gonna always give me a freaking, they're gonna give me all the copyright troubles because they're on the ones and twos and I'm on the vlogging. But anyways, we are at Sac CX Miller Park, the same one that we raced at last year when I raced the single speed. And today we're on a Diverge. I wanted to find out exactly if a Diverge makes a good cross bike. Does it work well as a cross bike? What should we do? I get asked this question 1,000 times over. Crux or Diverge? If I can only pick one, what do I do? So I know how well the Crux does in gravel, but how well does the Diverge do at cross? So we've got one set up, 33s all the way, Tracer Pros, and we're gonna go race some CX. I haven't changed anything aside from tires. Gearing's the same, I still got my water bottles on, I still got the dropper post on, my position's the same. I figured it'd be most consistent is to do a quick swap. So let's go find out what it's gonna be.
Oh, you didn't win, did you?
No.
Oh, no. I better watch what I say.
William, Nathan, Cody, and Max!
All right, thoughts on the Diverge as a cross bike. Hold on, let me go get my book. My numbers. So first off, why did I race this bike, right? Got a cross bike, got a Crux, got a few of them, and it's fantastic. Why ride the Diverge? Everybody asks me, Crux versus Diverge, if they could only purchase one bike. We have a lot of customers that are in this exact predicament, and if you are watching this video, you're probably in this thought as well. Do I buy a Crux and race gravel on it? Do I buy a Diverge and race cross on it? Back and forth, what do I want to do? Where do I want to fall? Before we dive into it, let me answer this. If you put 100% of your focus on cross, we have a lot of customers that they live for cross season, they train, they practice, they prepare for the season. They hit every race they can within driving distance of California, maybe even head out to nationals. That's a Crux customer, right? Even if you do all of that and you ride gravel in the summertime, you're gonna want a Crux. That's where 100% of your focus goes to. But if you're somebody that is coming from a road background, wants to try out gravel, and maybe races 3-4 cross races a year, if something comes up family related and you can't make the cross race, it's not the end of the world for you, then you're a Diverge customer. You're gonna spend 300, 400 hours a year riding a Diverge, compared to an hour and a half to 3 hours of cross racing in the wintertime. You want to spend as much time as possible on the most proper bike for what you want to do. So this weekend, what did I come up with? Right, here we are, we're in the Diverge. Thoughts. First off, let's throw some numbers out. This is going to get very, very technical, so bear with me here. If you're into tech numbers, get your pen and paper, jot them down, and compare. So head angle on a Crux is 72 degrees. Heading on Diverge, 72.5. It's only a half degree more slack. Interesting. Take note of that. Now the wheelbase length between the two, Crux has a 1,026 millimeter wheelbase, so 102 centimeters. On the Diverge, you're looking at 110 centimeters. So the wheelbase is actually shorter on a Diverge. That's something that I was actually a little bit caught off guard. I thought that the wheelbase is longer on a Diverge, but it's a smidge shorter. It's about a centimeter shorter. The fork trail, now this is an invisible line from where the head tube would continue through to the ground, and then the hub axle, and there's a measurement there. So we drew a perfectly vertical line through the center of the hub, and then an angled line through the head tube angle, and that distance, that's your trail, right? The trail between the two is only 4 millimeters shorter in favor of the Diverge. So the Crux is a slightly longer trail. About that in layman's terms, on the course or wherever you may be, the longer the trail is, the more stable it is at high speed. The shorter the trail is, the more nimble and quick reacting it is at lower speed. Next measurement, bottom bracket height. This is the key feature. Bottom bracket height on a Crux is 283 millimeters or 28.3 centimeters, and on a Diverge with, take note, the Crux, that bottom bracket height is with a 33C tire. The Diverge is with a 38C tire. The bottom bracket height on a Diverge is 26.5 centimeters. So with a 5 millimeter wider tire, larger air volume tire, you have a over 2.5 or almost 2.5 centimeter lower BB. That's the number one thing, right? So the center of gravity is extremely low. This bike's extremely stable for the Diverge. Now, I raced the Diverge with 33C tires on it. That probably lowered that BB at least another centimeter. So you're looking at over a 3 centimeter lower BB from a Crux. That's probably the number one thing. Numbers realistically are very, very, very similar between the Crux and the Diverge, but I've been trying to wrap my head around this and why it makes such a big difference and why it handles differently. I think there's some extra measurements that don't necessarily come into play and don't act as much of a factor in actual geometry measurements, but where you're positioned on the bike. On a Crux, you're very front heavy. On the Diverge, I think you're very rear heavy. I think the rear wheel is really tucked up under there. Your position on the bike is almost over the rear tip of the tire, or the front tip of the rear tire, where on the Crux, you're really more planted right in the center. I found, and I want to preface this, I know this is going to sound like I'm not in favor of the Diverge. I absolutely am. Just actual observations and opinions. The Diverge is fantastic for gravel. It's a great bike. But for cross racing, I found that it has a fair amount of understeer. It was really pushing me to the tape everywhere around every turn. I think it was because it's a little bit more slack. I think it was a little bit more rear end heavy. I didn't have that weight on the front to really bite into the turns. I found that I was getting kind of taken to the tape, dragged to the tape via the bike far more than I would ever find on my Crux. And once I was into the turn, and I'd have to then snap over and make the quick right-left transition or left-right transition, those snap, 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 snap turns, I couldn't quite do it like I could on my Crux. So when I was getting into the turn, I was 3/4 of the way through and I wanted to pick it up and flip it over. It wasn't happening. I was really having to muscle that thing around. It was very, it was a handful for me to get around a cross course. Now, the average rider might not notice these things. I'm very in tune with how I ride my bike. I'm very in tune with how a bike should feel. I'm also very in tune with kind of what I want out of it. Like, I pick up on every little note and detail on what's happening right, what's happening wrong. I will say that for the average rider, some of these things might not be noticeable, but for somebody who pushes a Crux already to 100% in cross races around the world, that the Diverge is a little bit above its head on a cross course. Does it have the capability to race cross? Yes. Is it the go-to cross bike? No. And even Specialized will tell you that. That's why they make two different bikes. And now, having to do this testing, doing this personal R&D for my own front, I can now answer these questions for you guys. And I'm not bashing them in any way. This is one of my favorite bikes I've ever ridden. Absolutely, hands down. Diverge is a great bike. But it's not a cross bike, and it's not a Crux, and it really highlights why we have both of these things. This is like riding a downhill ski around a slalom track. There's reasons why there's two different categories. They're both great skis. Both are made by the same company, and they absolutely have a purpose for both things. But you're trying to ski a long 200 millimeter stiff, robust downhill ski around a slalom track. man, you're gonna have to be working so hard to get that around versus a super short, like 170, 165, just snappy slalom ski, just yeah, maybe even shorter than that. But think about those things. A little softer, a little shorter, a little bit more flex is exactly what we want on a cross bike. And longer, lower, more stable, more stiffness out of the Diverge is exactly what we want for a gravel bike. Hopefully these things kind of help you find the bike that you're looking for. I think a lot of folks have these questions. I get this question so frequently. Bike tech, it's not Tech Talk Tuesday, but weekend R&D is what we'll call this one. We'll see you guys soon. I do have a tire tech talk coming up that you guys are going to want to tune in for, and it will be coming out this Wednesday. So Tech Talk Tuesday that gets aired on Wednesday. Tune in for that one. It's going to be a good one as well. We'll see you guys soon. Over and out.